Hello everyone, my name is Judy. I'm very glad to be here to share my paper. My presentation title is Designing Tax Levy Scenarios for Environmental Taxes in China. I will share my paper in the following 5 parts. The first part is the background information. This paper was published in the Journal of Cleaner Production. The Web of Science classification is Green and Sustainable Science and Technology, Engineering and Environmental Sciences. The second part is the introduction. In 2018, the Environmental Protection Tax Law of the People's Republic of China was implemented. This represents China's first standalone green tax with a clear goal of environmental protection. There is clear room to improve the current tax rates and clarify the taxpayers. On the one hand, the China Environmental Protection Tax Law stipulates that provincial governments have the right to determine their tax rates independently. That is, each province can implement a different local tax rate, so long as that rate is between the minimum and maximum rates specified by the legislation. Considering the potential impact of environmental taxes on the local economy, nearly half of the current official tax rates announced by provincial governments have implemented the same minimum tax rate. The low tax rate does not sufficiently constrain manufacturers, so it has been unable to achieve a satisfactory emission reduction. The China Environmental Protection Tax Law pays little attention to the cross-border transfer of pollutants caused by interprovincial trade. Different definitions of environmental responsibility between producers and consumers will result in different taxpayers. Production-based environmental taxes have been widely adopted in many countries because of the ability to monitor production directly and the simplicity of the levying procedures. However, the PET approach permits emission leakage. That is, regions with low tax rates produce the products and the regions with high tax rates consume the products. The tax that should be borne by the regions with high tax rates is transferred to the regions with low tax rates, thereby increasing the tax burden on the provinces with low tax rates and giving economic incentives to provinces with high tax rates. In contrast, consumption-based environmental taxes solve the emission leakage effect. This approach assumes that each region should bear the environmental responsibility embodied in the consumed products, since this will reduce imports and the consumption of the pollution-intensive products and services. The disadvantage is that the CET principle reduces the enthusiasm of manufacturers to reduce emissions, and this reduces the potential emission reduction effect. The third part is the materials and methods. This is the framework for this research. We first used the DDF to construct the TRA model and then reset the tax rates according to the shadow prices of the pollutants. Next, we constructed the PCT model using the results of the MRIO analysis and constructed the tax model based on the current PET and the designed CET. The designed CET requires the consumer to bear the tax burden using the producer-based tax rate. Then we combined the TRA and PCT models to calculate the tax revenue of each province under the 4 levy scenarios. Based on our results, we identified 2 gradual environmental tax reform paths and proposed the policy recommendations. The designed CET principle in this paper had the following 3 characteristics. First, The designed CET does not change the total tax revenues in China, but instead reallocate the tax revenue between the provinces. Second, the designed CET can not only encourage the consumption of products that come from regions with low tax rates, but can also help manufacturers to relocate their operations to regions with low tax rates and promote the economic development of their new regions, which agrees with the current Chinese trend towards deindustrialization in the developed regions. Third, the task of emission reduction is transferred from regions with high tax rates to regions with low tax rates, thereby reducing the pollution abatement cost and improving the pollution reduction efficiency throughout the country. The next part is the results and discussion. We found that the current official tax rates are not optimal and it's necessary to adjust the tax rates. The net transfer flows of imported emissions in developed and coastal provinces were usually positive. That is, consumption-based emissions were greater than production-based emissions. In contrast, the net transfer flows of imported emissions in developing and interior provinces were usually negative. The developed and coastal provinces were usually the starting point for the flows, producing and exporting low pollution intensive products and importing high pollution intensive products. In contrast, developing and interior provinces were generally the endpoint of the flows, producing and exporting high pollution intensive products and importing low pollution intensive products. This figure shows the tax revenues in the 30 provinces under tax levy scenarios 1 and 2. This figure shows the tax revenues in the 30 provinces under scenarios 3 and 4. This figure shows the differences of tax revenue in the 30 provinces between pairs of the 4 tax levy scenarios. We proposed these two gradual environmental tax reform paths. The difference between the two paths results from whether to increase the tax rate first or to adjust the tax pair first. Due to the need to clarify the consumption-based emissions and the provinces involved, implementation of the designed CET has many practical problems, such as difficulty in measurement, supervision, and implementation. However, the tax rate only needs to be adjusted annually or every several years to achieve the abatement goals of China's environmental management agencies. So it offers the advantages of low cost and easy implementation. In addition, some provinces have already developed plans to increase tax rates gradually. Therefore, it's appropriate to choose path 1 and to adjust the tax rate first. The last part is the conclusions. We found that the current official tax rates are not optimal. If the shadow prices are used as the basis for setting the tax rates, each province should adjust its tax rate. Second, interprovincial trade leads to the cross-border transfer of pollutants that place the burden on provinces with low tax rates. To solve that problem, we designed a CET that requires the consumers to bear the tax burden created by their consumption using the producer-based tax rate. Next, adjusting the tax rate would increase the tax revenue gap between provinces. However, the designed CET can reduce the tax gap between provinces and balance the tax burden. Although the tax rate adjustment would increase China's total tax revenues, there was still a large gap in total tax revenue compared with China's energy conservation and environmental protection expenditures and the health damage caused by these emissions. Then, scenario 1 should not be continued in China. Instead, based on our analysis of the 4 tax levy scenarios and a consideration of China's actual situation, it's appropriate to adjust the tax rate before adjusting the taxpayer. Based on our results, we propose the following policy recommendations. In the short term, China should adopt transitional measures to increase the tax rate gradually. In the long term, China should account for the cross-border transfer of pollutants and consumption-based environmental responsibility. Specific measures can encourage regions with high tax rates to consume the products of regions with low tax rates. At the same time, regions with low tax rates might undertake more abatement tasks, and the government might provide subsidies to regions with low tax rates. The present study makes 3 contributions to the literature. The uncertainties in this paper arise from 2 main aspects. Future research can consider differential tax rates for different industries and dynamic simulation of tax rates. That's all. Thank you.